Now we're going to go into our next dish, which is going to be the cider glazed salmon. And before we actually cook the salmon, I want to make the cider glaze so that it's all ready to go on the salmon when we're all done. So again, another nice fall dish, lots of flavor. And what I do is I take myself some apple cider, a bit of orange juice, some apple cider vinegar, then I'm going to take, I have some star anise, some cinnamon stick, I'm going to throw in a little rosemary just because I feel like it today, and some powdered arrowroot, and I'll talk about that with you in just a minute, and some shallots. So here I already have my cinnamon sticks and star anise and cloves, my shallots, and my rosemary. And I'm going to take this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to a boil. And I'm going to simmer it for like 20 minutes to get all the flavor out of the cinnamon stick, out of the onion, really meld all the flavors. And then I'm going to make what's called a slurry. And a slurry is it's a technical culinary term in case you've never heard it. A lot of people might be familiar with using cornstarch and water and then using that to thicken something. I use arrowroot. Arrowroot's a little bit more upscale for me. What it is the difference is it makes the sauce a little bit clearer and less cloudy. So I'm going to make a slurry using our powdered arrowroot, and that's going to thicken the sauce. So I'll take this and I'll put this on the stove. And again, just like we did earlier, we already have it already simmering here for ourselves. And it's already all hot and all the flavors have been melded. And I'm just going to take a little bit of cold water and add it to my arrowroot. And then you take this and you just swirl it around. And this here is what they will call a slurry. And I'm going to take that, and you'll see right now how loose, I mean literally it's all apple cider and orange juice, nice and loose. And we're going to turn up the heat a little bit, and I'm going to add this until it gets to a thickness that I like. Doesn't take a whole lot, but as you can see it's already a lot more thicker than it was. There we go. And now that right there is a nice glaze that's going to hold on to the salmon nice and thick and full of flavor. And I'm just going to let that sit off to the side, and we're going to go on to the next step of our dish, and that is making the wild rice. I like to make the wild rice because I can make it ahead of time. So when you bring over your guests, you have your cider glaze made, you make your rice, and really all you have to do is finish off with your acorn squash and your salmon. So without further ado, I'll get right into that next. So the next step is making our wild rice, and I have to tell you, wild rice is one of my favorites. All time, absolutely love it. In the fall, really delicious. I enjoy mixing it with squash. I enjoy mixing it with some grilled corn. For the holidays, it's one of my favorites. So we're using long grain wild rice, and wild rice is really pretty easy for you to cook. It cooks differently than regular rice. Normally when you're cooking regular rice, you're measuring out the water and you're trying to match that with the volume of rice so that it all steams together and comes out normal. Wild rice, we cook it almost like it's pasta. We cook it in more liquid, and then we strain out the liquid at the end once the rice is to the desired tenderness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rice, I'm going to put it into a pot, I'm going to add some onions. I'm going to add some of my veg stock. And I'm going to add a pinch of salt and pepper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil this slowly on the stove for about 50 minutes, 55 minutes. It takes longer than regular rice to cook. You can probably buy some of those instant, but I don't recommend it. There's so much flavor in this, and it's so good and healthy for you. And so literally, I'll put this on here, I'll bring it to a boil, and then I'll cover it and just turn it down and let it simmer for 45 minutes to 55 minutes, somewhere in that vicinity, until the temperature you like. And versus us going through all that, I can tell you that I've already done that. And as I said, I like to add in grilled corn. I've added in some scallions, and you can do all this ahead of time. Keep this in your refrigerator, or, you know, and just have it ready. And then when it's the day of, or the time of, you're going to be able to just take it, put it into a pan, and I'm going to heat it up when I'm ready to serve it. So we're going to put this off to the side. The wild rice is done, the glaze is done. Next, we're going to make some acorn squash. So our next step is to make some acorn squash. Again, fall flavors, delicious. And what I do is I literally take my acorn squash and I cut it in half, and then I scoop out all the seeds and discard those. And I like to use a little bit of aluminum foil because we're going to bake this, and it helps keep it even from falling over and nice and flat. And so what I like to do is take a little bit of brown sugar, some butter, and I'm not cheap on the butter, I like it in there, and then we take a little bit of fresh nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of salt and pepper, and some maple syrup. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to bake it in the oven. And I'm going to cook it half an hour, 45 minutes on 325 degrees until it's nice and tender. And I'm going to take it out, and it's going to look like this. And what I like to do is, again, this is something that you can make ahead of time, and take it out of the oven. We'll just take off this piece here, and you can cut it in half. It'll have all this nice butter in it, and you can literally have it all set up like this, ready to just go back in your oven, or you can time it out fresh, have it come right out of the oven and serve it like that. For our purposes for right now, I'm just going to set these off to the side. They're all cooked, full of flavor, delicious.